Hi, everyone. I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Road to College and the Paying for College 101 group. I'm going to get started just because it's a Friday and middle of the day, and I want to get through everything in an hour. So, but before I pull up my slides and get started, I just want to do some housekeeping. I'd love for whoever is here to share in the chat, tell me a little bit about what's going on with you and your student in this crazy process called applying to college and figuring out how to pay for it. So tell me, we've invited families here that have current high school seniors and current high school juniors, because if you have a junior and you can get started on this early, it's all the better. So tell me what year your student is in high school and kind of where you are in the process, particularly for seniors. Are you still researching colleges? Have your students started essays, the Common App? Do you think that your student is going to try and apply to any school's early decision, early action? So and how are you guys feeling? And it is completely natural and normal to feel overwhelmed. I wish I can say that that things get better, but it is just a roller coaster of a year. Senior year for you and for your student, they're going through a lot with school, they're doing these essays, and you are going through a lot helping them and trying to figure out the numbers and waiting to get information back from colleges. And I'm just kind of saying this so that you can expect the whole year to kind of be a little up and down until things are decided, which doesn't usually happen for families until May or March, sometime between March and May. So, okay, let's see what people have to say. Still searching for college, new process for us all. Absolutely. If you're a family that's going through this for the first time, there's always a learning curve. Sophomore just starting to learn all about it. Great, Denise. Glad you were here. I mean, this is our hardest thing as an organization, is to get people to recognize to start early, because you think, oh, I have time. Oh, well, I don't need to do this. But everybody who has gone through it says, I wish I had started earlier. And every time we kind of try and get those families with early students to get involved, they're like, I don't want to do it yet. So it's a tough thing that we haven't figured out ourselves. Okay, twin sophomores just learning about the language and the process. Senior just getting started on the Common App. Okay, good. Senior working on essays. Good to hear that they're working. Okay, well, great. Oh, a junior taking the ACT tomorrow. Good luck to them. Testing is a whole nother topic, but I'm glad that they are getting it done early in junior year. Okay, well, thank you for sharing. And just a little shout out, if anybody likes to put on their video, a few people have already. It's just nice to see people's faces. So just putting it out there, but not completely necessary. This is technically, thank you. This is technically a meeting. So I only say that because people are muted. If you really want to, you can unmute yourself and ask a question, but if you don't have anything that you want to ask, it's better if you do stay muted, because we just won't hear background noises. This is also recorded, and we usually send this out tomorrow. I think we're going to try and get this out maybe later today so that you can have it if you want to watch it over the weekend. So that's kind of all my housekeeping. I'm going to share my slides. I will also keep track of looking at the chat while I'm doing the slides, and feel free to ask questions, and we'll get started. Okay, let's get to my slides. Oop, I have to do one thing, sorry. Do that. Okay. Great. So if you can just tell me there's thumbs up or in the chat if you can see the slides, that would be helpful. Good. Okay, thanks. So today I'm going to talk about merit scholarships, I'm going to talk about how do you search for them, how do you find them. I'm going to talk about building a balanced list, but I'm also going to talk about paying for college because that's all kind of intertwined, right? And one of the major reasons why families are looking for colleges that can offer their student merit scholarships is because it reduces the costs of college. So, we're in it to get our student to a good school, a school where they are going to continue to learn, be happy, develop skills, obviously get a good job, but we also have to figure out how to pay for it. So these processes are all intertwined. They don't work independent of each other. Okay, so some people say, I see the Zoom schedule as well. Okay, sorry, let me try in this again. Okay, let's see. Are you seeing the slides now? Okay, thank you, thank you. Oh, sorry. Oh, I see. Yeah, I had the wrong window sharing. Okay. And then after I kind of explain to you about merit scholarships and the process, I'm going to show you a tool that we do have that you can use. I wanted to say from the start, my goal in all of the presentations that we always give is to educate families about the process, give you as much information as we have, and then if you can go out and do this on your own, you should. I'm kind of like all for the DIYer. That's kind of what our goal is. But if you want some help, that's why we created this tool, and we can share how it helps. If you want actual help with like some one-on-one services, we provide that. But we are always trying to kind of get the family to do as much as they can on their own. And then when you need the little extra help, we're there for you. But that's kind of our philosophy in overall, because I think it provides a better outcome. First of all, you know your family best, you know your student best. You need to be educated, on the process. You don't usually ask somebody else to go buy yourself a car or buy a house for yourself. So, you need to be part of the process. And but it's okay to also kind of need help along the way. So that's kind of how we approach things. So getting back to paying for college and where merit scholarships fits in is there's really 3 buckets of money when we look at how most families pay for college. The first is family contributions. They've hopefully been able to save something, in 18 years. Of course, that varies by family, and there's lots of reasons why some families have different amounts of savings. But basically, most families are trying to save something along the way and use it when the time comes. Some families are also able to take some money from, their income as their student is going to college. They figure out how they can cash flow some of the payment money, how they can reduce their costs at home. And then a third item on family contribution, which I forgot to include, is some families are lucky enough that there might be other relatives and grandparents that can give money. But basically, this is money that in some way, shape, or form is coming from the family. The second category is free money. And of course, anybody and everybody should want to figure out how can I get free money to reduce the cost of college, and that's partly what we're doing today. The free money comes in the form of financial aid, which, and these 2 bullets, financial aid and merit scholarships, which I highlighted, are also called institutional funds, meaning that it's money coming from the college itself. So the college offers money for families that they can determine have a financial need, and we're going to talk about that. And then they offer merit scholarships, which do not have any need component to it or financial basis to it. So that's really where we're focusing today. Of course, there's private scholarships and there's government grants. And private scholarships are good. I have nothing against them. I just think it's kind of, you have to figure out where in the process to focus on it. We all have a limited amount of time. And so finding a college that can either give you more need-based aid or can give you merit scholarship is just going to be a better return for your effort, because the scholarship, the largest scholarship your student's going to get is most likely going to be offered from the college they attend. you of course can supplement with private scholarships. It's just that's its own process that takes time, and the return on the effort that students usually put in for finding merit scholarships is not as high as the return for doing the research and applying to the right colleges and getting merit scholarship money. So that's kind of the way I view it. It's not that private scholarships are not worth it. You just have to figure out when you have the time to do it and how it fits into the process. And I'll give you some comparisons about private scholarships versus merit scholarships as we go along the way. And then the last item is borrowed money. And I like to kind of bring this up because families at this point in the process don't know enough about the loans that students can get. Not all loans are bad, and I am not pushing or suggesting that families should go into debt, but you should know a little bit about the student loan process, because you might factor a little bit of it into when you figure out how much money you're willing to spend. And quite honestly, you should figure out now what the tolerance is for whether or not you're willing to allow your student to borrow and how much they can borrow, and if you're willing to borrow. And so the quick information about student loans at this point is that your student is only allowed to borrow a certain amount on their own. And the government lends students money, but it is maxed out every year. So for freshman year, your student can only borrow $5,500. In sophomore year, they can borrow $6,500, and then in senior and junior year, they can borrow $7,500. I think it comes over 4 years to a total about a little over $28,000, and that amount can increase to about $32,000 if they go a fifth year, or if they have some other situations where a parent can't borrow a Parent Plus loan. But I only say that because we get a lot of parents later on in the year who kind of are like shocked and said, well, I just thought my child would be able to borrow whatever we couldn't, fund for them. And they don't realize that the students are maxed at how much that they can borrow on their own, and that any other borrowing after that, some parent or some credit-worthy person needs to be involved. So just kind of keep that information in your back pocket, and just don't think that whatever the numbers come out to be and you're willing to put in a certain amount and then your student's going to borrow the rest. It's just not going to be the case. They're not going to be able to borrow the rest unless you're going to be involved. So kind of think about that now before you get too far along in some schools where you just aren't going to be able to afford it. We focus a lot, and that's what this part of what today's conversation is about, on the college list. To me, the college list is the most pivotal part of the process because it determines so many outcomes. What the colleges that are on your students' lists are ultimately, right, the only colleges that they can be accepted to are the colleges they apply to. And then the colleges that they are accepted to are going to be the colleges that determine your final cost of college. So that's why figuring out how much you can afford, and we're going to talk about more about that, estimating what the college is going to cost before they even apply is really important, because what's on their list is going to drive your costs. Of course, what's on their college list is also going to drive the reality of whether or not they'll be accepted based on how many reaches, targets, and safety schools that they might have. And some of the families with seniors might be feeling this now. What's on their list is also going to drive how much work it takes to get through these applications. Yes, there is the Common App, and the Common App has a personal essay, which applies to all the schools that are on the Common App. But in a lot of schools, as you get a little deeper, they have supplements. They might have essays that are particular to if your student's going to apply to the honors program. And it's not unusual, depending on the selectivity of the schools that a student is applying to, that they could end up, having to write 10 or 20 additional essays after they finish their Common App. So just keep that in mind as you might be researching and knowing your student and how much they can handle. And again, this is just a saying we have, but I like to put it out there because I think it sums it all up. students can't get money from a college they don't apply to. So again, we hear a lot of comments in that February through April timeframe saying when parents are seeing other students getting acceptances from different colleges and seeing maybe what merit awards students might get, and they say, wow, I didn't know that that school gave out that much money. And unfortunately, it's probably too late for the student to apply at that point. So if you can do as much research now to get the information, estimate what the costs are, understand whether the school gives out merit scholarships or not, then that all goes into what the colleges are on your students' list. And if they're applying to the right colleges, they'll be able to get money. But if the college isn't on the list, they obviously can't get accepted and they won't be able to be offered money from the school. Okay, let me just see any quick. So somebody's asking, I know our kids are supposed to be in the driver's seat with college admissions folks, but is it okay if parents call financial aid office with questions to make sure the merit need situation pencils out? I don't want my kid getting his hopes up about a school we can't afford, and I really love the tool, which is what we'll talk about later, but I can't always tell if schools can combine merit and need, or if you just get the larger of the two options. I think that's a great question. Thanks for asking it, Mike. Yes, parents should be involved and parents can contact the school. I think, as much as possible, students should be the first person to contact the school, but colleges 100% know when it comes to the financial side that lots of reasons. A, students aren't sophisticated to understand what type of questions to ask. Parents don't want to share a lot of their financial information with students, which is okay. And so it is perfectly fine for you as a parent to be calling and asking any type of financial questions. But like, for example, I would just throw out, if your student can, maybe on some of these, try it first. So like, it sounds like maybe from the first question is, on some schools that might be offering need-based aid and merit, the question is, would your student be eligible to receive both? I would give your student a try to see if they can ask that question. And if they're not getting if you're not getting the information that you need, then you should call, absolutely. But it's all like a teaching and a learning process. So that's my advice, but good question. Okay, let's go on. So hopefully a lot of the people know what merit scholarships is, but but I will just kind of go through this quickly because we've got some families on here with sophomores and juniors. Merit can be called by lots of different names. Merit aid, it's called. Merit scholarships. It's also, honestly, sometimes called tuition discounts, because in its most basic sense, that is what colleges are doing. They are offering money as a discount across against their cost of attendance, and they're using their money to attract a certain type of student. As I said before, the colleges are not looking at what they're not usually factoring in what your financial need is in terms of whether or not to offer merit. A lot of schools do have a sense of what your financial capability is, and those schools are called need aware, as opposed to schools that are need blind, which truly separate out all decisions related to financial aid versus admissions. And that's really just a select number of schools. It's usually like the most elite schools. They can do that because they have really large endowments, and they can basically afford to support any student who they decide to accept. Other schools have budgets, just like you have a budget, for paying for college. Other schools have a budget of how much they can offer in terms of scholarships. And so although they're not factoring in, what your financial situation is in terms of how much money they're going to offer your student for merit, to be honest, they just might have a sense that, of where you fall kind of on the spectrum of social economic families. So that's just being honest. But merit scholarships are usually used at most colleges to attract that stronger academic student. It's to some extent, college is a business, and they are trying to offer something to their consumer, which is you as the family and your student. And in return, they are trying to get something that's going to improve their business. And their business in this case is, if they can get stronger academic students, it raises their rankings. And it just looks like they, become a more selective college. So, that's really the bottom line. Not necessarily a bad process, but, that's, what's going on. Merit scholarships, and this is my comparison to private scholarships, are generally renewable. And that's why it's so important to understand them as part of the admissions process. The majority of merit scholarships are offered to incoming freshmen because it's being used in this process of trying to attract a stronger student. So there is merit money that is also offered to transfer students, but a much larger amount is set aside for incoming freshmen. And usually whatever the dollar amount is that is offered as part of the incoming freshman, that amount is renewable with a little caveat, which I'll explain, through senior year. And the requirements for it being renewable are usually related to a GPA. You don't have to kind of worry about too much about that now, but come the February, March timeframe when students are getting offers and they're getting merit scholarships, you do really want to understand, what that GPA requirement is. You might have even read some stories of parents sharing in the Paying for College 101 group. I think I saw one just like a few weeks ago of a parent saying that their student couldn't meet the GPA requirement. I think they might have been a sophomore or a junior, and they lost it. They don't necessarily usually lose it completely. They might be able to regain it, but they might have lost it for a semester. So some GPA requirements are a 3.0. That's, usually most students can do it. But some merit scholarships are 3.5, and that's a little tricky. That could be risky, particularly for freshman year. Even, a really strong student in high school, it's a lot of transition. We don't really know, how they're going to do freshman year. So these are just things that, at some point along the year, you're going to have to think about. And then the last thing to keep in mind, which I always encourage families to be doing a 4-year plan of how much college is going to cost, not just the first year, because tuition increases. Except for in the COVID years, that's in the time that I've been involved in this space, was the only time where I saw that colleges didn't do increases. Other than that, I generally have seen anywhere from, like, honestly, a 3% to a 9% increase. So I suggest that families estimate a 5% increase. Hopefully it will be a little less. We don't like to see them pass 5%, but once your student is enrolled, you kind of don't have a choice. I mean, as it gets closer to the school that your student is potentially going to accept, you could look at historically what their increases have been, but just keep that in mind that the tuition is going to increase every year. And unfortunately, merit scholarships don't usually increase. So whatever the dollar amount is that's offered, that's what's going to be offered for 4 years. It's still worthwhile. It's still good. But in your bigger planning, just keep in mind that tuition is still going to increase. Okay, somebody had a question. I was told if parents are divorced and only one parent is claiming the student on the tax return, then only the parent needs to provide financial information. Is that correct? I'll quickly answer this question, but it's really a question that we go over when we talk about the financial aid process. So for divorced parents, the rule is, and this is for the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and it was changed last year, but the rule is that the parent that provides more than 50% of the financial support is the parent that fills out the financial aid forms. For FAFSA, a divorced parent and that parent who might provide more than 50% of the support is the only parent that needs to fill it out. If your student is applying to a CSS profile school, which is a school that actually tends to be more generous with merit and need-based aid, and asks a lot more information on this other form, which is CSS profile, then they are still going to get information from both the primary parent, which is the one that provides most of the support, and they ask also information from the the other parent. So, and I would encourage you, it's actually next week, the 19th, which is next Thursday, we're having a session all on the CSS profile. And so high school seniors, parents of high school seniors, you should definitely attend. We will go into more detail on this question. It's not black and white. So if you're divorced, you might want to look at schools that only take the FAFSA because they aren't going to get information from one parent. But if you're divorced and your student is applying to some CSS profile schools, just understand that they're going to see financial information from all the parents. Okay. So sticking to the merit scholarship topic, these are 3 categories which honestly are not formal. They're just categories that we've created over the years to describe scholarships to parents. There is a group of colleges, scholarships, which I call automatic. And they are automatic because your student doesn't have to do anything. The best of these colleges also have charts on their website, and I'm going to go through an example where they tell you kind of upfront, if your student has a certain GPA, potentially if your student has a certain test score, they're going to fall into this category, and we're going to give them this amount of money. Those are the best type of schools, because they are just transparent from the beginning. There are other schools that give out automatic merit scholarships. There was one the other day, I was helping a family, Mount Holyoke, and they, on their website, and you can see in the numbers, it's very clear. They even say we will automatically review all the admissions applications to see who might be eligible for merit, but they don't give you as much specificity. In fact, they don't have a chart. So you don't really know what they're looking at and what they're using for criteria to offer merit, but they are doing it automatically. So in this case, your student doesn't have to fill out any additional applications. They don't have to do an additional form or essay. They don't have to have an interview. They just have to send in their application. The second, competitive, is kind of what the word means, where the student probably has to do something extra. So they're going to probably have to fill out another application. They're probably going to have to do additional essays. They might have to go through an interview process. And these are more selective scholarships. They're merit scholarships. And in some cases, the student might not even know they're eligible, because what happens is that they send in the application and the college invites them to apply. And that happens after the deadlines, or at least the application deadlines. And then there's usually a second set of deadlines for these essays or applications. And I'm going to show you an example. And then the third is talent, is for students who might have, this is a non-athletic talent. So theater, music, art, and I kind of highlight these types of merit scholarships because they usually come with a different set of deadlines, which could be related to an audition or sending in a portfolio. And it's really important to know what those deadlines are. Sometimes those deadlines are before the regular deadline. Sometimes they are after. And that's why, and deadlines also are important and apply to competitive scholarships. And so that's why I highlighted it at the bottom. Keep track of deadlines. That's, I think, one of the biggest lessons, particularly for your student, about this whole process is knowing what the deadlines are and organizing their time so that they can meet these deadlines. Obviously, there's early admission deadlines, which could be, for early decision, early action. There's, early decision 2 deadlines. There's now this year some schools that I'm seeing have early action 2 deadlines. There is deadlines for the merit scholarships, and for you parents, there are financial aid deadlines. And again, we're going to talk about that when we start doing sessions on financial aid. But if your student is applying early, it could be early decision or early action, the school may have an early financial aid deadline. The school has financial aid deadlines, which in a lot of cases are different than what the government's financial aid deadlines for. And usually the school deadlines are much earlier. The government deadlines are to kind of like catch everybody, whoever wants to apply for financial aid. Really the ones you need to pay attention to are the school ones. And then actually, I should say, in terms of the government, it's the federal government ones that are far out. There are sometimes state deadlines, though, that are important and early to pay attention to. Okay, so let me give you some examples. This is an example of an automatic merit scholarship school, and I've just been tracking it for a few years. So this is Miami University of Ohio. At the bottom right is honestly, they have a grid on their website. It shows, if your student meets these academic requirements, they are automatically going to get some amount of money in this range that's on this grid. Bottom right was 2020. It was before COVID hit. I just kind of show that as a comparison, so you can also see the changes that happened. Obviously, then there was more emphasis on test scores. So students had to have a certain GPA and a certain test score to get it in 2020. Things have changed along the way because of the pandemic. And if you kind of, just look at the top range, you can see that both the dollar amount has changed and the requirements have changed. So even in 2021, the requirement was to have the highest category was 3.95 as a GPA, and they were giving out, for residents and non-residents, let's go to the non-residents, 21,000 for that category up until full tuition. If you go now to 2024 and 2025, so this would apply to the seniors here. This is directly from the college's website. You can see that they've increased the GPA, and they've also kind of played around with the numbers. So for at the highest range now, all they're saying is for a higher resident, we're going to start at 4,000. They're going to give more, but they're not telling how much more. And for non-residents, they're going to start at 15,000. So I show you these different charts over the years to point out a few things. One, requirements change. And, again, think about this from a business perspective. This is the college's money. They can decide to do with it what they want, right? If they decide that they're only going to give it to students who have perfect GPAs and certain test scores, they can. Just like any, any business can decide I'm going to give, I'm going to give discounts, but with certain requirements. So colleges change their model every year. There are a lot of consultants that work with colleges. It's a whole industry called enrollment management, and they are looking at what worked last year and should we tweak it for this year. So obviously at Miami University, they realized, hey, we can attract maybe an even higher quality student if we up the GPA number now to 4.3 is the top merit scholarship. And it probably worked for them. They probably now got even higher, academically achievable students. And the other thing I wanted to point out, and Miami University is a little unusual in that they are using a weighted GPA, and they even have this language on their website here about that the school will recalculate the student's GPA. Most colleges are using the student's unweighted GPA just because it's an apples to apples comparison. But I would still make sure you understand, if you're looking at a college that has this type of a chart, that what the GPA requirements are that they might list it. And I have to be honest, some schools don't tell you on the chart. And going back to the question of, if your student or the parent should reach out and ask questions, this is a great question for your student to ask if it's unclear. Ask the admissions office, I'm really interested in merit scholarships. I'm looking at your chart. It's not clear. Are you going to be determining merit scholarships based on my weighted GPA or unweighted GPA? It's a great way for them to interact. But it's just important to know, because, and I'll give you the quick story. A few years ago, a family came to us and they were disappointed that their student didn't get the top range of a merit scholarship that they were anticipating and kind of forecasting that the student would get. They got the second one, and it was all because the school was looking at the student's unweighted GPA, and that family was looking at the chart considering the student's weighted GPA. So, just again, pointing out mistakes that people have made. So hopefully you won't make those mistakes. Okay, so moving on to an example of competitive merit scholarship. The reason why I show these two examples is the first one on the left is USC, which is University of Southern California. They always had the case that if a student wanted to apply for merit scholarships, their deadline was November 1st, but the school's regular decision deadline is December 1st. I think it was about 2 years ago, they changed. In previous to that, they didn't have any sort of early admission deadlines, but now they have an early action deadline, which is November 1st. And so they're saying if your student wants to be considered for merit scholarships, they need to apply as part of the early action deadlines. So they need to apply November 1st. So all I'm pointing out here is that your student can still apply regular decision for this particular school December 1st, but they are not going to be considered for any merit scholarship. So here's a case where deadlines and knowing the deadlines are really important, and particularly if you're trying to get money from that school. So when you're looking at all of the merit scholarship information, understand if they, whatever GPAs that they have listed as requirements, and absolutely understand deadlines, understand if there are additional applications needed, understand if there are essays needed. And of course, I'm sure a lot of you have already started, create a spreadsheet, create a Google sheet that you share with your student, and kind of for each school, kind of line it up, all the requirements that are needed and who's taking care of what. And then of course, has it been done? I'll quickly answer. Somebody's asking, what's the difference between early action and early decision? So early action is that the college, it gives an earlier date that students can submit their application, and there is no requirement for the student to have to accept the acceptance if the college says that they would like them to come. And then the colleges are also saying if you get your applications in early by my early action deadline, we're going to actually promise to come back with a decision earlier than we might normally do for a regular decision. So early action decision notifications range from colleges. Some do it in December, some do it in January, but they basically come back earlier and tell you whether they accepted your student, or whether your student, they unfortunately denied them, or whether they're going to waitlist them and kind of relook at the application when they have more students applying in regular decisions. That's early action. No obligation for your student to actually accept the offer. And personally, I think if a school is offering early action and your student can apply in time, it is smarter to do that. There has been a trend that more students are picking up on these tips. And so if a school has early action, there are more applications coming in early action. And that's just compared to past years. But the number of students who apply early action is still smaller than the number of students who apply regular decisions. So it's just kind of a less crowded decision time or process that your student's application can be looked at. And the other benefit is you will just know information earlier, so you can make other decisions based on the information you get back. Early decision is a more serious decision for the family and the student, because if your student applies early decision, they actually have to sign an agreement. It's not legally binding, but it's kind of morally binding. And basically it says if your student is accepted, then your student is automatically going to go. They're going to withdraw all their applications from the other school, and basically the process is done. There's a lot of benefits to that, and I'm actually going to show you numbers behind that benefit. In a lot of schools, there is a higher admission rate during that phase. So that's a benefit. The other benefit is if this truly works out for your student, they're usually done by the end of the year, so they don't have to go through the ups and downs of waiting. And you're done, and you can enjoy the rest of senior year. The downside is that it's a little harder. You're financially committed to whatever the cost is of the school, and you may not have all the information before your student decides to apply early decision about how much that school is truly going to cost you. So that's very difficult. So I always say, yes, run the net price calculator for an early decision school. Yes, do all your research, which I'm going to show you to look at the numbers. Some schools, a very, very, very small number, might do what we call like a pre-read. So you might be able to ask the financial aid office to look at your application to give you like maybe a better idea of how much aid you might get if you might be eligible, or what the net cost is. But I honestly always say to parents, be prepared that you're going to have to pay the sticker price for early decision, because you are going a little blind. I think that's, the really bad part of this whole process. There aren't regulations around it. You are basically committing to a product and a price before you really know what the price is. And there is a small caveat to say that if you truly cannot afford whatever the final offer is on early decision, you can go back to the college and you can ask the college to release your student from the obligation. And colleges do it. I don't think that they want to see a flood of people, asking that, because that would probably have ramifications maybe from the high school that your student came from, because they're expecting that counselors and families kind of take this seriously, to take it serious both from an admission standpoint and a financial standpoint, that they've done as much research as they can before their student sends in an early decision application. So that's kind of, I probably went into more detail on what the difference between early action and early decision is, but I think you get the gist of it. Okay, the second example on the right here is from Boston University. I just want to show it quickly. Again, they do competitive merit scholarships, but the reason why I show it is, some schools give you a little bit more of a hint about what they're looking for when they're asking for a more competitive application. And in this case, again, BU said on their website, although test scores aren't required, and that might be the case, they tend to get students that have test scores that are 1,533. So what they're saying is, yes, you can apply test optional. And if you're probably not sending in your test scores, then everything else about you needs to kind of say, I am a student that probably had, that could have had a really good test score. But also in this day and age, be aware that if a student does have a good test score, they are sending it in because they want to show that, that just kind of rounds out their application. Okay, moving on, new section. This section is called Know Your Numbers. And the numbers here are SAI, which is the Student Aid Index, cost of attendance, COA, and financial need. And this all goes into understanding whether or not you're going to be eligible, or you're going to need to look for schools that offer merit scholarships, or schools that offer need-based aid. So your SAI is what is ultimately determined from the FAFSA, which we're going to start to be doing webinars on that too this year. Normally, the FAFSA is supposed to open up October 1st. This year, it is going to be open October 1st, but just for a very, very, very limited number of people and organizations that the government's going to be doing some testing with. But it's going to officially open December 1st. And hopefully it will be a lot smoother than last year. So just be happy that you didn't have a senior last year, because that was a bigger mess. But what you can do now is I would just honestly Google federal SAI estimator, or federal government, or Department of Education SAI estimator, and they have a tool on their website that will estimate your SAI. Again, it may not be 100% accurate, but it will give you the realm of where you're at. We're actually working on a spreadsheet that I'm hoping that we'll have out like pretty soon, that mimics what the formula is for the SAI, but then you can kind of like see all the contributing factors and fool around with the numbers. So hopefully we'll have that soon, but you should have an idea of what your SAI is, and I'm going to explain to you why. Cost of attendance is the retail price of the college. Every college legally has to have a cost of attendance number on their website, and it usually includes, well, it also has to have legal categories included. It is tuition, an average room and board, an average for transportation, an average for books and supplies, and an average amount for just general expenses. So that might not be your final cost of attendance, but again, it's going to be pretty close. You know, some parents or some families, the student might get a cheaper housing, so their cost of attendance is lower. Some might have a higher transportation cost, so their cost of attendance tends to be a little higher. But that's a pretty good, you know, ballpark number to work with. So the basic formula that the government and family and colleges look at to determine if your family has need, right, is they take the cost of attendance of a college, which is kind of like the retail price, and then they look at what is your SAI. And they subtract, because the SAI is basically saying, this is the amount that I can afford, that the government feels I can afford to pay. Doesn't mean that that's what you will end up paying, but it is what the government is estimating that you should be able to pay. And the difference between those two numbers is your family's need. Okay, and now colleges now look at that need, and then they determine, can we help that family cover the need? And if you are a family that has need, then you might want to look at schools that are going to provide need-based aid, right? So that's colleges that are going to say, hey, we have the money and we want to help the families who can demonstrate that they have need. Those tend to be the more selective schools. So again, like, you know, all the Ivies, all the near Ivies, you know, that you want to call them that, they have really large endowments, and they basically are saying, if you come here, either you can probably pay the full rate, or if you have some sort of family need, we're going to be willing to help you, and we're going to cover that need for you. And they tend to be very generous, and they'll cover 100% of the need. So that's a great case. But a lot of other schools just don't have the same resources, and they might be willing to cover your need, but maybe they can only cover 50% of it. So that's why I said, just because whatever your SAI number is not the number you ultimately will pay, or you have to work at it. So it depends on what college your student applies to and what the financial aid policies are of that college. Okay, so let me go through this example, and I think it will be even more clear. The first example on the left shows a family that has need, right? So the family has an SAI of 30,000. And the reason why I give these examples is I also want you to show that your need is going to change at different colleges, because the need is really dependent on what the college's cost of attendance is. So in this example, the first college they are applying to or looking at, the cost of attendance is 50,000, so they have a need of 20,000. The second college, the cost of attendance is 80,000. So there they have a need of 50,000. So, and then the next step would be, okay, what are the different financial aid policies at the school? Just because you have a need doesn't mean that the college is going to give you money, because they may not give out a lot of need-based aid. Or they might, as I said, only cover 50%. So now you have to dig into the school's policies and how they match with, are they going to help in your situation? The second situation on the right is a family with a much higher student aid index. In this case, I purposely picked a student aid index of 90,000, which isn't unreasonable. Again, it's a whole nother discussion about how it's calculated, but a big chunk of the student aid index is based on your adjusted gross income. And it's usually, they'll take like 56% of your adjusted gross income and put it towards what your SAI is. So just kind of throwing it out, if you're a family that, you know, makes 150,000, you can see already that your SAI might be in the 70,000s. So, you know, a lot of families, you know, even, you know, who make, you know, 200,000 or 250,000 and above are not going to get need-based aid, and that's why they need to look for merit. But in this example, the family has 90,000. I purposely picked the 90,000 because at a lot of schools, hopefully that 90,000 is above the cost of attendance. In the first case, this is a lower cost school, and of course, what this family can afford is much more than what the school costs, so they're not going to have any need. And then in the second case, the school is still an expensive school. It's 80,000, but in this case, still the family's SAI is above the cost, so they're still not going to have a need. And so this family, the only way they are going to reduce the cost of college is to find a college that offers merit scholarships. Okay, hopefully I hit that home. The other number to know is your budget, right? So we have cost of attendance, SAI, student aid index, family need. All that doesn't matter. What matters is what is your budget. So I could have a SAI of 90,000, but for lots of different reasons, I am not willing to spend more than $45,000 to send my student to college. I'm not making a judgment call. That is fine. You need to know what that number is before you go into this process and help make decisions for your students. And there's lots of reasons why you're not willing to spend what your SAI is. I'll just give you one quick example of a family that we worked with where the student knew ahead of time they wanted to go to medical school. In addition, so off the bat, the family had the money. They had an SAI that was way over 100,000, but the father didn't want to spend more than $50,000 a year because he had other financial obligations. They had a sibling that had disabilities. He was, supporting elderly parents. And again, he knew that his student wanted to go on to medical school. So they were being financially smart and knowing what they were willing to spend for undergraduate, knowing that the student was going to need money for graduate school. So, again, so this case, know your budget. You might purposely look for schools below your budget or close to your budget. And then you might look for schools that are above your budget, but that that your student might be able to get merit scholarship money there. So that's what's going to help you make the difference between what the school's cost is, because you're not going to have financial need, and what your budget might be. So in this last example, the family's cost of attendance is $80,000. They're not going to get any need-based aid from the school, but they're trying to hit this budget of $45,000. So they purposely applied to schools where they knew their student could get merit scholarships. In this case, making it up, the student could get $25,000, and then they're going to have to decide how they're going to supplement the rest. That's why I also discussed about loans at the beginning, because you could factor in if you want your student to be taking out the federal loans, and then are you going to help anything above that? So this is the type of financial work for seniors you absolutely have to be doing now before your student makes all of these decisions about where they're going to apply. For sophomores and juniors, this is really important information, and great if you can do it ahead of time, because you might be able to make some changes in your financial situation. Maybe that could affect your SAI. Maybe you're going to make financial situations and how much you're willing to be able to save a little bit more for the next year or two to increase your budget. You might make decisions about if you do research and find out, well, certain schools want, you can see that students with a higher test score are getting more money. So for the family that said that their student is taking the ACT this weekend, that's great. You might, have a certain SAT range in mind that honestly, the higher up, again, students can get merit money, I really believe, at all different academic levels. But the reality is the stronger academic student just has more options of where they can get money and how much money they can get. Okay, so I'm going to skip a little bit just for time purposes and talk about how you do searching, and then skip to our tool and talk about like real numbers. So some of this is just repeat what I just said, but know your SAI, because you need to know, am I looking for schools that have to have policies that are going to give me need, or if I'm looking for schools that are where my student's going to get merit. And it's okay to have a range of schools financially on your student's list. There might be a school that there's just not enough information in everything that I show you and every research that you do, and you're not going to know what the cost might be, but you're going to put it on the list. As long as you have a few colleges on the list that you do feel more confident about the costs, and that you feel that they can be affordable. Know your family's budget. Know if you're looking at a school that that either offers need-based aid or merit scholarships, and there are definitely schools that offer both, and then know what you need from that school. I really recommend that you don't go into this process kind of with like preconceived notions. I've seen some wonderful outcomes where at the end, students are going to a school that their parents and the families just never even either knew of or considered, but they learned through the process because they didn't go in with a very narrow idea of what they wanted. So that's why I say go in with a wide net. I'll show you quickly. I know because the hour is running out. I'll go past the hour, but I know that people might have other obligations. If you search by just GPA and a test score, you will see schools where your student is most likely to receive money from. Maybe you know those schools, maybe you're not. Maybe you're now a little bit more open to be investigating them or researching them because they're just, more financially reasonable. So that's what I mean. Kind of don't get stuck. A lot of students are like, I'm only going to go to school in this state. I only want to go to a Big Ten school. You can look at those schools, but also look at other schools and be open-minded. Always include your state school because it's most likely, going to be a lower cost school for in-state residents. And then last, I kind of call something, I call it a leverage school. It's kind of funny. Somebody just emailed me the other day and they said they were Googling for the word leverage. Now I understand where they got the language. Don't Google for the word leverage. So a leverage school is a school that I say, if you can find one, you might want to put on your students list. It's maybe very similar to the schools that your student is interested, but it might be a school that is more generous. And so I say to put it on the list because when it comes time in that March, April next year, when students are getting offers back, there's a process called financial aid appeals or just, appealing merit scholarship money. And basically, you might go back to the college and say, my student really wants to go to you, but they got this other offer, which is financially better. And so basically, can you do anything? Can you match it? So you want to have maybe at least a school where that's the case, where you can kind of like, have something in your back pocket for negotiations. And so that's what I call a leverage school. But if you could do the Google search, it's really, you should Google the school's name and the word peer institution. So these are colleges that other colleges might view as their competition. Again, just like in business, right? If you are, trying to buy something and, you go to one store and you say, it's a price match. But some schools do it, some schools don't, some stores do it, but you at least want to have that information. And so as you're researching your student schools, you can also research what we call these peer institution schools, because they're going to feel pretty competitive. If your student got an offer from a peer institution school, they actually might be more likely to want to match it. Okay, I crammed in a lot, and now let's skip over to the tool that we have. It combines information from a lot of different sources. Most of these sources, I'll be honest, are public information, but it's just much harder to access it. I mean, you can access it publicly, but it's in, you can only go school by school. You can't kind of do what I call a reverse lookup on the information. We take some of the fields and we break them down into more granular calculations that these sources don't do. So our tool is called Insights, and it has information from the common data set. It has information from the government. The government's source is called iPads. And then the third source is our own, is crowdsourced offers. So every year, and we've been doing it for the past 5 years, we ask families to share what the actual offers are that they got from colleges. And so, for some schools, we have a really robust sample set. For other schools, it might be smaller. But you can go and kind of, I'll show you in the tool, click and see what other students' offers were from last year and however many years back we have for that particular school. Okay, I'm going to switch now to a different slide to show you how to use the data. Okay, can you guys see this now? Okay, so this is if you were to, you can go to our tool. It's called insights.roadtocollege.com. Hold on, okay. And this is what you'll see. I'll just show you quickly. If you go to our main site too, because sometimes people get confused, which is perfectly fine. This is our main site. If you actually have an account and you go to log in, if you guys want tutoring, you should sign up for this giveaway. It's definitely worth it. So if you click on log in here, if you want to go to the tool I just showed you, then you should click here, go to the R2C Insights. Okay, and then it will get you to what I just showed you. But if you want to go directly, the URL is insights.roadtocollege.com. So I'm just going to I already have an account. You can create a free account and see some of this, but Some of what I'm going to show you is only with a paid account, which you can get either monthly or on an annual basis. And I think honestly, for seniors, it's pretty reasonable. You might only want to use this now for like a month or two left, and you can get it for like $24.99 a month. So if you sign in, I have a Google sign in, so I'm just going to do it quickly. Again, if it's a new account for you, it might ask you a few questions to create information in your profile, but I already have that set up. You can search for individual colleges here. You just type in the college's name and it starts to come up. I'm going to go to Power Search. Before I go to Power Search, I'm just going to show you one other thing. Again, for the families with a sophomore and junior, I guess even for seniors, if you're still going to, if they are still taking the SAT, we have a free digital SAT from a company that we partnered with. And anyhow, they do really good analytics. The College Board also offers a free SAT. Your student should do that. But these are just better analytics to tell you what your student did well on and what they need to improve. So if you click on that, you'll get information. I just wanted to point it out. Okay, I go to Power Search. And you can put in individual colleges here. Again, you can search by majors. You can search by particular regions. These are the regions that the government puts together. And you can also select individual states. So you can do a combination. You could pick whatever, 5 specific states and also say a region. Down the side here, you can search by cost of attendance. So that's like if you have that budget number in mind, you can say, show me all the schools, the private colleges that have a cost of attendance between $50,000 and $60,000. That might be a good way of starting this. You can also search for the state schools. So let me look for state schools that might be in that price range. And then of course you might want to look at your own state and see what the different price ranges are. So you can search that way. You can search by average merit award if you want to say, show me all the schools that generally tend to give a merit award of between 20 and 40,000, and it's going to show up. Then we even take it one step further. You can search by, what's the net cost. So if the school has an average merit award, then we've done the math for you. And so we just basically subtract the average merit from the cost of attendance, and you can search for, what the net cost might be at different schools. And again, I would search for these by, in-state, out-of-state, and private. And I will just give you one caveat, like on the cost of attendance here, you can say unknown. We've tried our best to fill in as many cost of attendance numbers as possible, but there might be a few where we couldn't find it, even though the colleges are supposed to have it on their website. So there might be some that we just don't have, and that's why it shows up as unknown. You might just want to look in that bucket to see what colleges are there, but that's why it says unknown. Okay, going further, the one that says percent of need met. So this is for the family that knows they have a financial need, right? And so they want to find a school schools will tell you what percent of need they're going to cover. So if you have a financial need, again, maybe you have a SAI that's 50,000. At some schools, a school that has a cost of attendance above 50,000, you technically have a need. So you might want to look at those schools that are going to at least cover 80 to 100% of your need and see what those schools are. Of course, you can search by school size. You can search by application deadline. And I did a search. I'll pull it up. And then here is the best way, I think, to search for finding those schools that are most likely to give your student merit. I focus on the test score, and I know we're still in a world of test optional, which we should be. But the reality is, if you just look at the data, schools share better information about test score data than they do about GPA. I wish, there were federal requirements about what colleges have to share in terms of data, but there aren't now. And so if you look at the GPA information in the tool, we wish we could get GPA information on all the schools. We just don't have it. So, even if you look here, a dash means that this college didn't provide the GPA. And again, going back to just what the data can tell us, there are more colleges that share a breakout of all their test score, SATs and ACT information than they do about their GPA. So for the student who is maybe test optional, even if you have a test score, I would use it even if, for the searching purposes. Obviously, just because you're searching with it doesn't mean that the student has to submit it. If your student truly didn't take a test, most students still taking the PSAT, you can use an estimate from that, or you can take their GPA and Google Prep Scholar, which is another company and website, has done a really nice job of doing a conversion between what they have seen over and over again about students' GPA and what type of how that student with that GPA usually performs on the SAT or ACT. And then I would take that and just create a range. So someone's asking, how current is the information current as of this week? Yes, actually, this week, this information doesn't change week to week. It changes. Honestly, it does a big change once a year, and that change just happened, and we updated the data about 2 weeks ago. And the data comes from the common data set. A lot of it comes from the common data set. And if you can Google any school's common data set, you can, say Tulane common data set, and you will usually get a page that lists year by year with their common data set. The most recent common data set that came out is what they call for 2023, 2024. And what that means is it's for students who started school in the fall of 2024, which just happened, right? And it's all the information about how those students got to school in 2024. So that is the most recent information out there for any website. So even though it was for students who started in 2024, the colleges don't release that information because they have to gather it through the fall and the winter. They don't usually release it until the spring I made a mistake, sorry. It is for students who started in, because now is fall of 2023. They started in fall of 2023, and then the college had all of 2024 to gather the information, and then they share it in the spring and the summer of 2024. So sorry for that confusion. So it is the common data set of 2023, 2024. The 2023 refers to the fall of when the students started, and the 2024 talks about the year that it took the college to gather the information. Okay, let me do a search. So here I'm just going to say, let's say that the student has a range of 1,200 to 1,300 in their SAT. If you want to find colleges that are going to offer them merit, you want to find colleges where that SAT range is at the top of the college's test score distribution. So that means it's at the top 25%, or we call it the 75th percentile. So that's what you would click. You could say, show me the schools, what meet that average. You could also say, show me the schools that a student that had between 1,200 and 1,300 got any sort of merit money, and that would be searching through our crowdsourced offers. So let's just do this. It actually automatically filters. And so if you come back up, there's 302 schools that where a 1,200 to 1,300 is in the top range. And then you have all these sorting capabilities. So I can sort the list by, private cost of attendance, by the average SAT score. I sorted all these different ways, but one of the first ways I go to is say, okay, let's look at the average merit. So now I have a list where the 1,200 to 1,300 is in the top, 75th percentile. And now I've sorted to show me the schools that give the most merit. Honestly, we'll have to double check this. I have a feeling this 184,000 is for 4 years. It's not for 1 year. So we will double check that number. But I do know that Susquehanna is a very generous school that always shows up on our lists. So they are giving an average merit, again, for this student with this academic range of 39,000. College, Alma College, Washington and Jefferson colleges. Some of these colleges may be familiar with you. Some of them aren't, but I will tell you that a lot of these colleges still give good educations, and they're still worth considering and looking at, even if you didn't know their names. So now you can go through and you can you can actually take the whole 302 colleges and add them to a list. You can create your own list and name them. And then I'm going to show you a different section of the tool where you can look at more detail, or you can go through each of these schools and say, okay, I want to add this school to a list. I want to add this one. So you can pick and choose which ones, or you can add the whole list. But you can use this tool to, create lots of different lists. And then when you have a list, you should go to the My List section, and it will show you all of the lists that you've created. And I'm going to pull up one of these lists, which I did before. It's a school that has early decision deadlines. That's all I did, was just show me all the schools with early decision. I could have said, show me all the schools with early decision that, give out merit. That might have been a good, one. Or show me the schools that have early decision that where my student, is in this SAT range. Or show me a school that has early decision with, cost of attendance in this price category. So you can do all those types of searches and then create the list. But in this section, you get more of a table view. Maybe, some people like that. It feels a little bit more like Google Sheets or Excel. And we have more data that you can filter and sort by. So you can add these sections. We don't automatically add it because the data can be sometimes overwhelming, or too much data can be for people. So you can add it all, or you can look section by section. But I'm going to add the admissions data, and it adds it. I'm going to add the merit scholarship data. I'm going to add the financial data. Okay, so now you have a big table with lots of columns, and I'll just go through some of the information that I think is important. If we've got the GPA breakdown, it's here. You can see that like Chapman doesn't provide GPA data, but other schools do. We tell you whether they're test optional or test free or test required. There's not a handful. A lot of California schools are test free these days, as meaning like they don't even want, even if you have a test score that you want to give in, they're not telling you don't send it in. We have average SAT. We have the 75th percentile SAT, ACT, 75th percentile ACT. Okay. And so here's some interesting information, particularly related to early decision schools. So we break out, there's the overall admission rate, right? But there's underlying pieces to that admission rate, particularly if a school has early decision or early action, because they're taking some students early. So let's just to give an example here. I'm going to actually also filter this. Let's look at Emory. So Emory's overall admit rate is 11%, but early decision, it's pretty clear that they accepted more students, on a percentage basis than they did in other deadlines. So Emory accepted 25% of the students who applied early decision. So does that say that you have a little bit better chance of getting in early decision? Yeah, it does, and then once you really understand that, then if your student's applying regular decision, then the overall admission rate doesn't apply to them. It's really the regular admission rate because there's fewer spots available there's fewer spots available regular decision now because some students applied early decision, and yet there's usually more applications that come through regular decision. So somebody saying percentage does not mean much. There are less students applying early decision. Yes, what this is saying is of the students who applied early decision, 25% of those students got in. That is what this percentage is saying. What maybe you're referring to is that we have another column here of the percent of the class that is accepted early decision, which is an important number to know. Again, look at all of these schools: Emory, Middlebury, Grinnell, Bates. They are accepting, in this case, Emory, 68% of their class early decision. It means they are filling up the class with students who apply early decision. Yeah, they are accepting students regular decision, but that's why it's much harder. There are fewer spots and more applications or regular decision. It doesn't mean your students shouldn't apply regular decision. It just means you should understand and know these numbers. And these schools that I show here are kind of well known for schools that fill up their class early decision. So if your student's not applying early decision, they're just going to have a harder chance getting in regular decision. And again, this is not to push people or make you feel anxious that your student has to apply early decision. It just, but you do need to understand the numbers and if they relate to your students' schools or not. So again, you can kind of see all these schools are taking a big chunk of their class early decision. And then as I scroll down, I mean, there's a lot of these schools are still taking their class 50%. Some of the schools get to be less than 50%, but even a school that's taking, 40% of their class early decision, it's still a chunk of the class. And it just makes the regular decision process more competitive. So someone said, just confirm the higher percentage acceptance is early decision, not early action. Is that correct? What I'm talking about is early decision, and it is a binding decision. We don't have numbers because colleges don't share it on what percentage of the class they admit. Well, actually, early action, you can't do the same calculation, right, of what percentage of the class is filled early decision, because on early action, we can know how many students were accepted early action, but they don't have to, how many students the college accepted early action, but we don't know how many of those students decided to take the early action acceptance and enroll. They don't share that information. So we can't figure that number out. We can tell you what the admission rate is for early action. And you can see here, there are some schools that provide both early decision and early action. And, you can definitely look at those numbers as well. So a lot of schools, I'm sure here, I'll sort this the other way to see who's more competitive in early action. So Colorado College is they're admitting early decision and early action. They seem to be more selective in early action because maybe they know that the student who's applying to Colorado College early action might have other options. And obviously the Colorado College is willing to accept more early decision students because the early decision student is basically making a commitment by applying early decision. So that's just my quick interpretation of the numbers, but so that this is interesting information you can look at. And I'm going to scroll a little bit further along here. And the other section, we've talked a lot about finances. We have this column related to what percent of need met does the school do, and then average merit scholarship amounts. So again, if you figured out that based on your SAI, you're going to need financial need, then you want to find a school that's going to be more generous in covering a high percentage of financial needs. So you might do your list and then come here and sort. And then you see these are the schools that have early decision and that are meeting 100% of financial need. Again, if you look down the list, you can see they tend to be generous schools, but more selective schools. If you kind of continue scrolling, there might be a school down here that is easier to get into. And like, again, Washington and Jefferson, I'm not saying it's an easy school, but it's a less selective school, and they're covering 83% of need met. That might be a pretty attractive school for a student, with the certain grades and with the family that has financial need. I can now sort this column. I'm jumping over to the column here that says average merit award, and I'm gonna sort it by most generous to least generous. So Duke always comes up at the top in this small grouping of colleges. So yes, does Duke give out merit scholarships? Yes. And do they give out some pretty generous ones? Yes. My guess is they're probably even giving out, and I know that they give out full tuition scholarships and full ride scholarships. But then look at the column next to it. This is the percent of freshmen who actually receive merit aid. Okay, so Duke is generous, but only to a very small number of students, 3% of students. So, would I call it an overall school that is generous with merit scholarships? Probably not, because they're not, even though to a few select students, and these are probably competitive merit scholarships, those students are getting really fabulous merit scholarships, but it's a very small number of the students. If you scroll down, right, you will see that there are other schools that are more generous across the board. So Webb or Albion College, or again, Washington and Lee seems to be coming up a lot. Well, actually, they are generous, but they're only generous to 11% of the students. So, that's, they have competitive scholarships in there that those students are getting it. But if you look, Bennington College, definitely a less selective school, but they're generous, and they're basically giving it to a lot of the students who don't have financial need. So here's our Susquehanna, generous and giving it to 70% of the students who have merit, who don't have financial need and who would only be eligible for merit. So it's these two columns that you have to kind of look at and see how much are they offering, but to how many students. Okay, you can also, again, you can take colleges off the list. You can click here and say, I want to remove this college from this list. I want to remove my college from all the lists. So you can be, adding and subtracting colleges from different lists as you go through and look at this information. You can also click on the college's name and go directly to the college, we call it the college detail page. And the reason I go here is there's a button that says crowdsourced offers. So this is the offers that people share with us. And so you can look at. And so I'm going to pull up this year's offers. This is from, again, Susquehanna. We tend to get a lot of offers from them because they give out a lot of offers and people share them. And you can scroll through here and see details about the offers. We group these by SAI ranges. So again, if you know your SAI, I would kind of jump to the range where your SAI matches. Again, most people who are looking for merit scholarships are probably going to have a high SAI. So I would start looking in the higher ranges of like 55 to 60,000. And then honestly, above that, we don't even break it out. We just say anybody with a SAI above 60,000, like, this is where your student's offer should fall. And you can see more detail. You can see where the students are coming from, what state they're from, what their GPA is, what their SAT is. If a student here on offer number 32, they didn't share what their SAT or ACT, it means that they applied without submitting it. So this is a test optional school, and they still applied. They didn't share their test scores, and they still got merit scholarships of 48,000. So, what this shows me is that, Susquehanna, so the number that we have that's called average merit aid is a number that Susquehanna reports on their common data set, but this is from actual families. So what this is showing me is that Susquehanna actually gives out the money that they are reporting, because to tell you the truth, there's no self-police. It's only self-policing. There's nobody or no organization that checks their information of what. And there's been a few scandals, to tell you the truth, but whatever the college puts on the common data set, we don't really have a way of checking, other than now kind of looking at the crowdsourced information and saying, okay, yeah, that makes sense. They think they said that their average was about 39,000, and I'm seeing that they give some students a little bit more and some students a little bit less. So that's how you can look at the crowdsourced information. And that's it. I'll go look at some of the questions. The only other thing I'll mention is if, again, if your family with a senior and you want extra help in different areas, these are, again, our goal is always making, we want the DIY family to do as much as they can. And then we try and kind of, piece apart how we can help and make it as, reasonable as possible. So I'm just going to point out some of the popular services. If you want a review of your student's Common App, that's really popular. We kind of look at all the sections. We look at the activity section in particular, the wording. We obviously look at the essay. We kind of see how it all hangs together as a whole. So again, in the September, October, November timeframe, that's a really popular service. Another really popular service is with this review and polish. If you think your student is kind of done and has a very close to final version of their essay, but you want another set of eyes, a professional editor to look at it, that's what this service is for. So anyhow, just pointing it out, these are all different ways if you need a little extra help. And if you don't, that's fine. That's it. I'm going to stop sharing and see what some of the questions are. Okay. Oh, so somebody asked, good question, on the college, on the Insights database, do you have data for the amount of merit that test optional students receive? I don't. I mean, I wish I could. Honestly, the data we have, we are gathering as much as the colleges share, and then doing calculations where we think it's important to show some better calculations that the colleges don't do the numbers for. But colleges just don't share that information. They don't do a good enough. They just, again, this is, I think, a philosophy of colleges. You'll see some colleges are really transparent. I think that's great, right? That might even want to factor into how you feel about the colleges. Some colleges are really not transparent. And again, you might want to factor that in about how you feel about sending your student to that college, because if they're not transparent early on, they may not be transparent as your student is there. So that's just something to think about. So to your question, we don't have that data. I wish we did. It's just because the colleges aren't sharing it. So there's a question. If students are having a topic, I'm assuming it's relating to the essay, but are having a hard time putting it into captivating essay, do you offer coaching that will help them develop a great essay? We absolutely do. Just go back here quickly. Yes, that is the essay package, essay coaching package. We will help your student at whatever stage they are at. We've already been working with students and families. So earlier on, some students had no idea of what their topics should be. So we helped them brainstorming. Other students come with like 3 or 4 topics, but they're not quite sure which one to go forward with. We help them figure it out. Some students come with 2 or 3 essays. They don't know which to move forward from. Sounds like your student might have an idea of a topic, but just doesn't know how to kind of flesh it out. Yes, so we help with like whatever stage that they are at. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. Oh, in California, are there any schools that are super generous like Susquehanna? Yes, I think that there are. Honestly, I can't like name them off the top of my head, but I definitely have seen a few in California. Obviously, California is dominated by the UC system and the California state system. So, but the private schools there tend to be very also selective, but I will take a quick look after and see which schools fall into that category. There probably are, but I think what you will also notice, this is just kind of if you take a step back and kind of see the landscape of colleges in general, it's just how the history of colleges have been created. If you look on the East Coast, there's lots of small colleges. They're much older. That's just really related to how the states were developed, right? So on the East Coast, there are a lot of colleges that started in the 1700s, 1800s. Well, those states were around then. And then as you go across the country, you see that there are private schools, but there's fewer private schools. And then the state schools become much stronger and much bigger. And again, it's just the development of the states over the years. So, so why I say that is because you tend to find that the colleges on the East Coast tend to be a little bit more generous because they are some of the smaller colleges, and they're also trying to attract students to the location. But I mean, it varies. There are definitely generous colleges all across the US, just as a concentration. There might be more in the Northeast. Okay, let's see what other questions you have. Some schools say they are generous with merit, but the amount may only be $5,000 per year. Do you break down the amount of merit? So the amount of merit that we show, that average merit amount, is a per year amount. So, honestly, a school that's giving $5,000 per year, any dollar amount is helpful. I wouldn't call that as generous, as there's definitely schools that are giving, 25,000 up to like 45,000. And that's what I would call the more generous merit scholarship schools. Does the percent of need met include federal student loan and work study? Great question. It does not. Percent of need met, well, it might include work study, but it definitely does not include federal loans. The percent of need met is, and I'm going to actually, I'll confirm that. Now my gut is it doesn't include work study. I'm pretty sure percent of need met is just the institutional funds that a college offers to a family to meet the financial need. So if it's just the institutional funds, then well, it definitely wouldn't include federal student loans, and I'm pretty sure then it wouldn't include work study. Even though the college makes the decision to offer the student work study, the money to pay for work study comes from the federal government. So I will double check, but that's my answer right now. How often is merit money stackable with athletic money? I'm going to be honest. I do not claim at all to be an expert on athletics, the NCAA. It's like a whole nother area. So I don't know this answer for sure, but my gut would be that it might be stackable because, but it will probably vary college to college. In Division III schools, the athletes are not getting athletic scholarships. They are getting merit scholarships. So actually there's no stacking there because there's no athletic scholarships given out. In Division I, Division II, there are athletic scholarships which have their own set of rules. And I think that there are definitely colleges that might supplement for some students with merit scholarships. And there, even in Division I, Division II schools, there might be some athletes that are getting merit scholarship and not athletic scholarships. So it's a great question. I can't say for sure what the answer is. I would ask the college. Is the database free tool when I sign, or is it free when you sign up? Yes. So we have a free account. You can see a college detail page. You can see, I'm going to say like 60% of the data. You can't see all of the data. You can do a few sample searches and you see some of the results. You don't see all the results. So you can get to the free digital SAT with the free service. You can look at the free account. You could look at the other services. So you can kind of do a little mini test run of the database, but you just don't get access to everything. Is merit stackable with financial aid? It usually is. So for that family that might have financial need and has a good student, you want the sweet spot of a college, right? Would be to find a college that is covering a high percentage of financial need, and also that your student is in the category that might get merit scholarships. So that would be a great college to find. I'm not going to say it's a needle in the haystack, but there's probably fewer of those colleges. Colleges tend to be like on the extremes, like they cover need-based aid and they cover it really well. They're generous and they offer merit scholarships and they offer it really well. And then there's a smaller number that are kind of in the middle that do a little bit of both. Let's see. Can students only apply to one school early decision? Yes. I realize I didn't emphasize that. For early decision, for everything we talked about, a student can only apply to one school early decision because the premise is if they get accepted, if the college accepts them, they need to go to that school. So that's one application can be early decision, multiple applications can be early action. Okay, really good question. If your student applies early action, does that limit the amount of merit aid the school will give? I can't say this is going to be an answer that's gray. I can't say that there's a definitive answer. I have definitely seen some schools where it's kind of a philosophy, I think, of the school, which you'll never really know until after the fact. But I've seen some schools want to hold and save their merit scholarship money for where they really need to attract students. And so they might feel like they want to use the merit scholarship money later on in the season. And so they're figuring the student that's applying early is kind of already interested in them, and they might not want, the college might not want to use as much merit scholarship money to attract that student. So in that case, the student might not get as much merit scholarship money early on. They might get it if they appeal, and the school might be holding the merit scholarship money for themselves to kind of give out later in the process. I've also seen the opposite, where a school actually gives a lot of merit scholarship money to the early action student because they know more students are applying early action and they want that student to commit. So that, a student might be applying to a lot of early action schools, and then they get into one school with a great offer and they just are like, I'm tired of this process. I just want to feel done and I'm going to accept. So, in that case, the school offering merit money early helps. I can't, so there is no definitive answer here. I would just, if your student is interested in the school, if the school offers merit, at least through the numbers, and they offer it, if they can apply early action, I would recommend they apply early action. I think they will have a slightly better chance of being, accepted, and you will get your information earlier. And quite honestly, if you didn't get the merit money that your student wanted early, you can still go back and ask. And you can say, my student really wants to commit, but we didn't get as much, is there still a possibility of getting more merit? Let's see. Do most schools not release percentage of students accepted early action? A few years ago, colleges were not sharing as much information about early action. I'm seeing more colleges share it. Again, not as many colleges share all their early action information as they share early decision. The best we can do is, use the information that they provide. So if they share the information, it's part of the common data set, and what they will share is how many students applied early action and how many students did they accept. So I, again, wish that the schools that are more transparent or just makes the process easier. Somebody asked, can a student apply every school early decision and early action? Well, I think we kind of already, cleaned that up. Only apply to one school early decision. You can apply to as many schools as you want early action if this college has early action process. Let's see. What's the last date that seniors should take the ACT to be considered for merit money? That's a really good question. That's going to vary by college to college. They should obviously have their test scores kind of done before they apply. So it depends on when your student's applying, what deadline, if it's early action, regular decision or not. I will say though, for students that are applying early action, if they and even regular decision, you can go to the college and say, I got this test score after I sent in my application. Can I still submit it? Because I think it might make me eligible for better aid. And a lot of times they will accept it because, again, going back to the very beginning of my discussion, colleges are offering merit to help you and to help them. So if they can get a student with better test grades, it helps them up the ranking. So bottom line, I would try and get all the testing in before the student submits, but because that's kind of then for sure that the college is going to review and accept all the information. I can't say for sure that they will accept a later test score, but if that happens, you should definitely ask. My motto is ask, ask, ask. The worst answer you get is no. The best answer you can get is yes, and you won't even get a yes if you don't ask. So ask whatever questions that you have. Okay. Can you search the Insights database by major? Yes, you can. And let's see what else. I'm just going through for any major topics that I might not have answered. Let's see. Is there a simple formula that gives a family an estimate for the SAI? Not really right now. I mean, I would do the estimator. It's not really hard to do. There was a website that put out a chart that based on what your adjusted gross income is and how many people you have in the family from tax reporting purposes, how many dependencies you had. It estimated it, but it didn't include any assets. So it's really hard to include a simple chart that shows income and assets and what the estimation is. But hopefully, again, that's why we're trying to come up with this spreadsheet that you can kind of play around with those numbers. But again, definitely go get an estimate of your SAI from the government's tool. Okay, I have to run, guys. I'm actually getting pinged because I think I'm late for a meeting. Hopefully this was helpful. We answer a lot of questions in obviously the Paying for College group, and there's a lot of other really knowledgeable parents and professionals in that group. And also, if you have questions, if we can answer them quickly, you can send them to support@roadtocollege.com. We want to help as many families as we can. So feel free to send the question. If we can answer it honestly within 5 minutes or less, I will usually shoot back a response. Okay, thank you, everyone. Good luck to those families with seniors. Hate to, I don't mean to put the pressure on, but it's, if they're applying to any early decision, early action schools, the crunch time is just about to start. Everyone have a great weekend. See you soon. Bye.